Patience, my bovine friend. It will come. No, but we are all gods to him.
I'm Justin Rose, author of the project, and you are.
Hi, I'm Kilian Meehan. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. It's good to put a face and a. Well, I've heard your voice before, but it's nice to put a face and a personality with the messages and the recordings. So how long have you been acting?
I've been acting for, I think, just under a decade. I started right during my high school, and then I've been doing it ever since. I've been doing voiceover for a bit over a year now.
Okay, cool. And what sort of got you started in it?
So I transitioned from a normal public high school to an online private school in 8th grade going into, freshman year. So I realized I had no friends anymore. And the easiest way to find friends is at theater. So I found a homeschool theater troupe that was doing a production of Romeo and Juliet. And I went and auditioned for that, and it was terrifying. And from that point, I was bitten by the bug, and I've been acting ever since. And then I found out that, you could go and voice act and play the characters in like video games and the TV shows that you watch. And I was like, That's incredible." So I've been doing that, and I'm so happy to be a part of this project. This is awesome. It's been so much fun to get to play these fantasy characters, which is like stuff that I've dreamed of playing my entire life. It's so awesome.
Yeah, I was homeschooled as well, and it is kind of cool how sometimes those communities are able to make those opportunities happen like that, which you wouldn't normally. You'd kind of think of homeschooling as being shut off from those opportunities, but when you're in an area with really active community, it's really neat how much they're able to put together and create those opportunities. Like growing up, I had several siblings who were involved in different homeschool acting um, dramas. Like I think they did like a 20 and 10 play for the that World War II play and stuff like that. It was very very neat. Um, what kind of training have you done? Like I saw on your website there was some listings of different training and skill sets and stuff. What sort of experience did you have?
Yeah, so I minored in theater in college, so I have a nice foundation from that. Other than I've taken some classes in like some Stanislavski classes. Really, this past 6-ish months, I've been going to New. I live in Connecticut, so I've been going to New York just to train right away, and I've been taking some classes in like in studios. Been doing some like scene into song classes for musical theater. Some like I've been working on getting my setup here. I've taken some like audio producing classes and things like that to try and help set everything up here. But yeah, I've got I always call it, I have a Microsoft approach to training where I have a little hand in every basket that I can get my hand into, just to have a little bit of something so that I have some knowledge in a lot of things.
Yeah, you mentioned the audio classes, and I gotta say, like your files all came in very cleanly, very clean sounding. So evidently they're working for you because they all sounded really really crisp. What kind of acting do you most enjoy? Like I know you obviously from your reels and stuff, you've done a lot of musical theater. You mentioned that's kind of part of where you got your start, and now you've been doing the audio acting for a little over a year. I think I saw some other audio dramas listed on your site too that you've been part of and are currently working on. What sort of stuff do you enjoy most?
That's such a tough question for me because I really love doing it all so much. I think because I've been doing some more audio theater and some more voice acting things, that's really started to become my favorite because you get so many more opportunities to play things that you'll never get to play. Like I feel like film is the most limiting in that aspect, but like film, it's a cut of all of your best work. So that's really appealing because no matter how many times you mess something up, there's always going to be a good take that you get. And that's really interesting to me because it's like, oh, I can try so many different things. Theater, because it's so, so like there and gone, you have such a unique experience for like an audience and as an actor. And the roles are definitely a bit more flexible. Like I probably could in a kids production, I'd be an adult. Like if it was a teenage production, I could play like the old crotchety man because I'm older for that. But like for an adult production, I could play a young kid if I like clean shaved and stuff. And then for voice acting, the range is open. It's entirely open. Like so many more characters. And I think that is the most appealing to me is like, yeah, I could be playing a demon and recording something as a demon one day, and then I'm like Ted from down the street. And that's really engaging for me.
Well, that's actually directly related to the next thing I wanted to ask you that I was curious about. So, I personally have, no experience acting of any sort, but I've always been curious about this. Like, you mentioned in a finished production, like a film or an audio drama or something, you're doing multiple takes and you're able to really hone it down and get your best possible output. And then on the theater side, it's like what you do in the night is what you get. But I would imagine that there's probably a certain level of what's the word I'm looking for? Rush associated with doing the theater performance where there is all that risk on the line for each performance. Is there much distinction in kind of like how you feel about the performance afterwards between the two, where you can create the finely polished thing, but you don't have that same level of kind of like anticipation and pressure?
Yeah, there I yeah, there's definitely some of that where it like for me specific or like what I see for theater, it's if you screw up one day in theater, that night is over. But on something that you can continue to correct, you can always listen and go, "Oh, I wanna read this line that way. Oh, I wanna try it like this." There's always something more that you can do for it. So it's but like the rush that you're talking about, yeah, I think finding those moments where you can take and see and really like your the descriptions and the writing in this in Fall of Ingway is so vivid and it's so great. So being able to see those pictures, that like gave me that rush where it's like I'm in this room and I'm this character and we got to see the dialogues in there and hearing that reading through it like on my monitor while I'm acting through it. Like that gave me that same rush like I was on a stage.
I appreciate that. And that's cool to hear. I cannot wait to hear all of you guys compiled together because I've been really impressed with the level of performance I've gotten. And like you said, seeing the text on screen that you're responding to versus once this thing's finished and we have like, all the actors going back and forth. I'm really looking forward to that almost as much as an audience member, because like I wrote the script, but everything that the project is going to be is pretty out of my hands at this point. And so I'm just like eager to see everybody else's input and what everybody else can make of it. Um, so what drew me to your reels for this project was kind of you mentioned in your description a very large vocal range, and then I started listening to some of your recordings, and it definitely seems like you have an extensive vocal range. And I think the first thing I wanted you to try out for was the Minotaur parts. How did it feel trying to find the voice of a Minotaur while recording? Because I hired 3 people for that, and I knew I was like, this is just going to be so weird for these guys. They're going to be sitting in their studio trying to figure out what the heck does a Minotaur sound like. And all 3 of you did a great job, but how did that process go?
Playing non-humanoid characters or characters that have these monstrous qualities is something that I love doing. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd. I love running and playing Dungeons and Dragons. So having those fantasy creatures has always been something that I've just like had in my back pocket as something I like it's you need to have these scary monsters, but finding those voices and figuring out like how that character would breathe, how that character, you know, laughs, like those little moments and like for the minotaurs that you have in here, you have like the lowing of that, and I'm like, "Oh, that's such a good way of thinking about it." Like, because I hadn't I was like, "Oh, yeah, they're just big scary guys." But, like, having the tie like, for specifically the minotaurs, having them tied to, like being tied to, like, a real world animal is such a useful tool to be like, "Oh, that's a great starting point for a voice and what you want it to sound like." These like drony, this like deep guttural noise.
That's cool. I tried to use those descriptive words to get a uniform starting point, but I didn't know if everyone would or not. That's why I kind of gave 3 people the different scripts with like the extraneous sounds, kind of like all the background noises. I kind of gave to a few people because I didn't know if they would all jive together or not. but actually all three of you who did it wound up with very similar approaches. So once we have all those group shots and stuff together, I'm really looking forward to hearing that because I'll be able to use all three of you guys' files and have it sound harmonious is probably the wrong word because it's not exactly a harmonious sound, but like it all jives together nicely with the approach. So I appreciated your guys' work on that. Um, so you had a large number of roles in this production. You weren't any of the like really prominent main characters, but I think you had at least four distinct mid-level characters. Dorwin, Torhavith, Doran, and Othlin. And two of them were kind of like absolute villains. One, that cold, meticulous, calculating tyrant. The other, kind of a more personally vitriolic, cruel type. And then the other two were both, uh, just by chance, they were both condemned people who were facing their own deaths with very different responses. Did you have a favorite between the four? Was any one of them more enjoyable to get into?
I think playing the villains is always more enjoyable because it's something you never get to do in your day-to-day life. Like there's never a moment where I'm walking down the street and I'm gonna be able to do and say the things that Othlin says. Like that's never something
One
I
would
would be
hope
able to
not.
do. Yeah, you hope not. But like so getting to go to those places as a voice actor, it ties back into what I was saying earlier. It's like the possibilities of the characters you get to play are so much more. So getting to play these just like utter scumbags, like these horrible people, and have it be exactly what is needed there. Like that's I think if I had to pick from those four, I think Othlin would be my favorite.
And it's right before pulling up this interview, I was kind of like refreshing myself on some of your stuff, and I pulled up the scene where Othlin is speaking to his beloved fiancee shortly before they're to be wedded. And yeah, just the level of offhanded nastiness there was quite effective. I was like, yeah, I'm glad I picked this guy. Um, so moving away from this specific project, do you have a favorite thing you've done in your career? Like any one part or role or production that you point at that I was like, I am really proud of this one.
That's so tough. That's another tough one. Ah, hmm. All right, I'm gonna give two answers. So the first one
Sure.
is I did a show called Romeo and Juliet Choose Your Own Ending, which is a hilarious retelling of Romeo and Juliet. And at two different points in the story, after the party scene and as the fight between Tybalt and Romeo is about to occur, Romeo stops the show and asks the audience, "Hey, what should I do?" And the audience votes on like, so at the party, it's do I stay true to Rosaline or do I go after the new girl, which is Juliet? And depending on what the audience votes, it leads down to a different track. And then at the fight, it's do I fight Tybalt or do I stay out of the fight? And it leads to there are 8 different endings for the show. And doing that was such a cool experience. I hope to get to do that show again one day because that was so much fun.
Fun.
Oh my god, it's so
So
cool.
if you don't mind spoilers, were you able to keep it a tragedy in all the different formats, or did it swing over into comedy for
It swings over into comedy pretty heavily.
okay,
Uh Obviously, if you choose, it does just do the same retelling as Romeo and Juliet, but there are so many chaotic turns and twists, and it still has that root in Shakespeare where some of the language is true to what was written, but a lot of it has been revised for a modern text. Mercutio talks about his father having a shark face, and wow, that was a crazy dream. So there's a lot of good banter that's been added to it for to modernize it.
Shakespeare is so good for that. Like his texts, while beautiful and perfect as they are some of the most mutable. One of my favorite plays is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which if you're familiar with that one. And it is so simultaneously true to the source and so irreverent to the source at the same time that like there's very few productions I can imagine doing something with that approach that would work so well. But Shakespeare's great for it. Like his stuff is just so ingrained in the consciousness that you can do a choose your own ending story like that with Romeo and Juliet. And I bet everyone in the audience would be completely in on the joke, even if they've never even seen the original Romeo and Juliet, just because they know enough about it, you know?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
so ingrained into, like, modern media, the star-crossed lovers, that it's such a good tale to, like, retell and stuff like that.
And you said there were 2, so Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
what was the second one?
So the other one I just recently, and I think episode 3 and 4 just came out, a couple weeks ago. I did another piece of audio theater, and it's called "If We Really Were Witches," and it's the story of 3 in our world, if magic really existed, 3 modern day witches attempting to help a person in the Salem one of their ancestors during the Salem witch trials. And I play the master witch hunter John Thomas, who is the story is as if the Crucible meets Monty Python is what it is aptly described as.
Okay,
It's
that's
it's it's a
interesting.
it is very funny, and it was such a blast to get to do. That was really my first dive into audio theater, but absolutely loved the role. I talk in a ridiculous high pitched voice the entire time.
So very different from this production in that case, where you are all in the lower registers.
Oh yeah.
God, I am gonna have to look that up because, I am definitely a big Arthur Miller fan, and I'm definitely a big Monty Python fan, so that sounds like a good pairing.
Yeah,
Um,
it was so much fun to do, and it's another one where everybody was so talented.
nice. Yeah, that helps. So do you have anything else coming up? Well, it's just the next question I have here is what do you have coming up? But clearly that's one of the things. Anything else?
As of right now, I don't have anything specifically coming up. I just finished recording a new commercial and video game demo a couple days ago, so I'm gonna be sending that out to hopefully secure an agent and get some more work that way. And
Nice.
I'm auditioning to some local theaters around the Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts area, hopefully landing some gigs during their seasons. But as of right now, there's nothing secure on the calendar.
Seems like that must be a pretty good area of the country to be in for live performance stuff, I would imagine. Nice. And where can people find out more about you? Do you have like a professional website or any social media accounts that are linked to your acting?
I do. My website is kilianmeehan.com. So pretty straightforward. You could put that in there,
Nice.
and there's a easy way to get into contact from me there. And I think all of my socials are linked on there as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking. Thanks for having the discussion. I don't have any more scripts or anything at the moment, but I do hope maybe sometime next year to try and put together another one of these projects. And you will definitely get an invite to audition again if I do so. You
Awesome.
were one of the later people hired, so I didn't have any of the like prominent roles left open at that point. But I mean, I enjoyed your performances in here thoroughly, and I would definitely send you in some auditions for some larger parts next time.
Great.
Um,
This was a
well,
blast, and
yeah, just
I'm super happy to have been a part of it, and I'd love to be part of something else.
great. So, just in closing, quick couple fun get to know you questions. What is your favorite actor?
Ooh, that's a really tough one. I think favorite voice actor, I'm gonna go with Sam Riegel, and then favorite on-screen actor, I'm gonna go with Sylvester Stallone.
I am not actually familiar with Sam Riegel. What would I know him from? Maybe.
So he's one of the voice actors that plays on Critical Role.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, let's see, what are some of the other things that he's been in recently? He's a who was he in Ninja Turtles? He's Donatello in some of the Ninja Turtle stuff too, and that's what I know him from is because I remember growing up hearing his voice in Ninja Turtles.
And favorite book or story?
My favorite book. Ooh, you're asking so many tough questions for me. Oh, how do you pick just one? I mean, I work at a
I
library,
mean,
and I
you
don't
can
even.
throw out a couple if you need to. Like, I mean, if somebody asked me that question, I'd have to throw out a few. So,
I'm gonna give the one that I read most recently, and it's this book. I don't remember the name of the author, but the book is called Zeros, and it's the story of teenage superheroes that have powers that are not very good, and trying to cope with not having super amazing powers while trying to be a superhero team.
and favorite movie?
goodness, favorite movie.
Or play if that's easier, because I mean, it seems like plays are right up your wheelhouse.
All right. Uh, favorite movie, I'm going to stick to a classic, and I'm going to say Monsters Incorporated.
There you go. Yeah. So one of those core memory childhood movies right there.
Yeah.
Um, well, that was it. Thanks again for the interview, and you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. You as well. Have a good one. Thank you.
Loyalty. I want from this city what I want from you. Fear. Tomorrow, you will join me in Duty's temple. Elder Medulis will officiate our marriage. You will bless me as king of this city. Your people will hear. Understood? Good.
You did this!
Tribe Father, I could spin you a tale to curl your spine. I name you Tyrant and Ivitar. Blood traitor, oathbreaker. Ingway, take your heart. Malice already has your soul. I am a thief, yes, but I am an elf. And you are scarcely that. Might I see this weapon? If this is indeed a gift from duty, I feel it may have more uses than merely one more pointy thing to poke at our enemies. Phasia knows we have poke sticks aplenty. Show it to the priests. Let them publicly bless it and pray over the young champion who wields it. Melisande is a comely lad. The sword looks unnatural enough. I say, let the temples go mad, fawning and babbling. Commoners love a spectacle. They love heroes with magic swords, Roland and his Star Maker. They love gods that can suddenly be seen. It'll cheer them up a bit, help them forget they have no food.